Everybody, welcome back to another podcast. This time we're doing Mike's Movie Podcast with special guest Adam featuring Evan.
Oh, wow.
So as you've noticed, the order has changed. So Evan missed last
I
week.
had no idea.
Moved to the number 2. Adam is the new Starbuck here.
I would like to thank the Academy.
Of course. Well, we'll need to cover that. I have much to say about what's gone on in the last couple of weeks. And for those of you who are actually watching the video version of this podcast, you'll notice that Adam is dressed up as Ace Ventura. And that is actually, in fact, to celebrate the fact that he will be vaccinated. He works in a top secret health facility where he does important science and lab work. So he is going to get, and if I'm not mistaken, you will be getting that injection directly into the penis. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, they actually tuck it in the foreskin. It only works on uncircumcised men. We're gonna weed all the circs out.
Right. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, folks, about this vaccine, and this is news you can use. You actually have to be uncircumcised to get the vaccine, and that's because the folks
actually
Pfizer, right?
Related to the vaccine, in my sibling group text with my brother and sister, I missed a bunch of comedy where you guys may be aware of this. My brother sent a formatted satirical text that he sent to elderly, dads, our dad and his fiance's dad, and they both were tricked by it, which is the text is something like, I wasn't allowed to talk about it before, but I was in like the testing group for the vaccine, not the Pfizer one, but a different Russian one. And I'm happy to report there are no side effects. And then it's just a bunch of Cyrillic characters after that. And apparently it incited a lot of confusion and anger with the elderly people that he texted to.
Well,
I recommend trying that with Scott Johnson or any relatives you guys have.
Well, we're waiting for the real vaccine for the circumcised folks to come out. As we know, the newest Pfizer one, though approved by the FDA, is known to be the inferior of 2 vaccines. They wanted to make sure to test
the real one for circumcised people is going to be like in Auschwitz when they'd be like, go take a shower. It works. It's great.
So they're anticipating some pretty severe long-term side effects. So they wanted to get those doses out on the uncircumcised first to sort of weed them out because it's just they're monsters. We'll just put.
I'm just going to show you guys.
Okay. Oh, hey, there's a dog. Wow.
I need to ask. I know Adam that one of your long debates is about circumcision, and what is do you recall like the very origin of that, like where the first time you discussed that?
Yeah, the origin is I'm not circumcised and Evan is. That's the origin.
And we established this like probably within a couple weeks of meeting each other.
Yeah, I think when we met, when we showed each other our pieces when we met.
Right, you're in college, you're getting to know people in the dorm, you're trying to
thing.
And Adam made it through a series of rigorous friendship tests. This is the only one that he failed, was actually the circumcision one. And
and ever since then, we can't be friends. We're not friends. We're enemies.
All right. Yeah. So in this minute, we're talking. So we're talking. What 16 years of circumcision discussions?
At least.
Who's counting?
Who's counting? Yeah, right. No,
Wilbur really just wants to be involved in this. He's never done this before, but he really wants to know that this is what he's up to.
We're talking real news here. This is a real discussion that the American people want to have about circumcision, because as we know, things have the tides have turned, and unfortunately, there's this bizarre trend.
What's that? In what way have they turned?
Haven't we talked about this like since the?
Oh, I know. I want you to say it in a video that's going to be posted on the public eye. That's
what's become fashionable for Americans.
So I need to hold on a second, Evan. I'm barely hearing what you're saying.
I'm gonna get close to the mic for this guy. All right, this is important. It has become fashionable amongst these sort of pseudo-enlightened super aggressive folks to say, hey, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go au natural and make our kid walk around with like extra goop and skin flapping off his dong for the rest of his life. So they don't circumcise. It used to be the other way around. Back in the 80s, you know, it was about 70%, 60-70% would be circumcised and the rest weren't. And then now that ratio is flipped. So I'm actually in the minority.
An oppressed minority, as you always suspected you were.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I always bring up, anyone who is not circumcised and decides that it would be better to be circumcised can just do it whenever they want. It just so happens that no one ever does that.
Oh, they sure do. You're very wrong about that.
You know,
as I texted you guys in the group text, there's a reference to adult circumcision in the Charlie Kaufman novel, which I've been reading since our Charlie Kaufman Chucky K episode a little bit ago. So Chucky K also has circumcision on the mind.
Yeah, I want to say just too, on that, just to have a high level discussion about the podcast. Is every now and then we'll record one of these, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should share some of these with my family. You know, they ask me, hey, what are you doing in your free time? And I can show them this work. And and then this one circumcision stuff is kind of making.
You don't think they can handle the circumcision talk?
Well, I think it's a bit intense.
I took it off the rails. I took it off the rails with the gross language. I don't mean to do that. There's nothing wrong. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing wrong with either side. You know, it's fine. Okay. It's a little bickering argument that we have, right? The scientific evidence happens to be on my side, but that's not a big deal.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not having any kids. I'm never going to decide anyone's,
penis fate,
genital future.
So I need to ask you a question though. This is a hypothetical, and you have to stick with me on this one, Adam. You have to stick with me on this one.
I'm listening.
If you did have kids, and we'll say an adolescent boy, would you eventually send them to a youth military academy?
Mike is so smooth and diplomatic.
Yeah, I would be the one who sent the 6-year-old in Major Payne. I would not be waiting for adolescents. I would just ship them right out.
So if you're tuning in here now, again, this is Mike's Movie Podcast with special guest Adam, featuring Adam. And
who is tuning in now? How is someone tuning in like the chunk?
Because we're on the radio, you know. If you're on 97.3 FM,
you stop interrupting me, or I'll put you in third billing. Okay.
Are you talking to me or Adam? Because I
was talking to Adam here. All right.
Okay,
so
all right. Mike's in charge.
This is a podcast. We don't do timestamps here in our comments. We don't do timestamps.
We don't.
I mean, YouTube has a timestamp automatically along the bottom, so.
Well, we don't
announce certain specific timestamps.
We have so much to talk about. So, you know,
talk about Major Payne. Major Payne
is it's just the canvas though, Mike, right? I mean, let's be honest. Like Major Payne is the canvas for
the jumping off point.
It's the jumping off point. And you know, we have lots of stuff to talk about. We've given you a little teaser with our thoughts on circumcision, you know, and as far as the show is concerned, we are very pro. And so we move forward. And I think we'll get into Major Payne. Lots to discuss there, very deep movie. But I would love to discuss the fact that, folks, for those of you who don't know, I was fired from the show last week.
You flaked for the millionth time, and for once, me and Mike did it ourselves.
We weren't able.
Just like when Major Payne leads his cadets right before they have their big demonstration, we were like, you know what? We don't need to do it for Dad's approval. We need to do it for the honor and the prestige.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this in the open. So I want to hear from Mike. Mike, why was I fired from the podcast? And now I've been invited back. Apparently, I haven't listened to the show from last week. I wasn't on it, but apparently it went so terribly that they begged me to come back. Although I'm demoted, right? So now I'm no longer like this podcast featuring Evan. It's now featuring Adam, and I'm the.
No, he still said special guest Adam. He just said it in a different order.
Yeah,
but I'm third in order. So.
What I want to know is, had you actually watched the movies? Have you watched either of the movies we talked about last week now, a week later?
Oh, I have seen them. I didn't watch them in preparation for the show. That's why I canceled. I mean, like, it wasn't that I couldn't find 90 minutes to talk to you guys. It's that I couldn't find 5 hours to do the whole spiel, right? So
Well,
it's fine.
5 hours because we were going to watch the director's cut and original cut of Johnny Mnemonic and Predator 2 with and without the commentary track with Stephen Hopkins on the Blu-ray.
Oh, I missed that. So it's like 9 hours of homework. Listen, guys, I'm a mover and a shaker. I got plates spinning in 6 different countries right now. There's just I can't always be there for I love you. I appreciate being on the show. I like to come on and help out where I can, and I understand that I've been demoted, but I want to know, will this affect my pay? Number one. Number two, number two, what did you guys say about me behind my back?
It's not behind your back. It's publicly available for the world on the internet.
Yeah, literally anybody in the world could view it.
Anybody who cares, anybody who's interested at all in me or Mike.
Mm-hmm.
That's like,
yeah, I think the thing though, Evan, is I think that the reason that we did demote you is just to let you know that there are other experts. That's all. I think it's important that we all have a slice of humble pie from time to time, and you were looking a little hungry, so.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly caused some hurt, and it's been a long week. And
have you? Yeah. I hurt myself today.
Johnny Cash version and 9 Inch Nails and Seven Dust cover of the Johnny Cash version on loop.
That's like, that's like I want to hear the Les Claypool version. That's all I'm like.
Oh yeah, wait, Mike, what's the band that's on the Johnny Mnemonic soundtrack that Evan likes that I specifically said I wish he was on to talk about?
Oh, that's right, Fear Factory.
Fear Factory. Okay. We're not to talk about it.
So it's really funny because I don't think I've ever said anything about Fear Factory to either of you in my life. However, this is like spooky, and this is how I know this podcast is divinely inspired. This morning on Spotify, I got an itch for Fear Factory, and I'm going to share my screen to prove it to you right now. And this was up this morning at like 9 a.m. I was listening to the record Demanufacture. And I'm not kidding. And seriously, like,
maybe that means we should just redo last week's, and we can talk about Fear Factory and the Johnny Mnemonic.
So Fear Factory, it's a tongue-in-cheek thing, sometimes, put on a little Mudvayne, a little Fear Factory, but like, why did that come up as something I would like? I've never said anything about Fear Factory.
I think Mike and I both would agree. You're a famous, avowed Fear Factory. You're the only person I know that likes Fear Factory.
Just one of the. Well, I was hoping you were going to say something like, "Is this sort of like your personality?" It's just my personality. It's Fear Factory.
No, your favorite bands are Eric Johnson, Metallica, and Fear Factory.
They go together.
Fear Factory, whatever the draft coming soon.
Yeah, I know. Mushroom Head.
Exactly. Fear Factory draft is. I don't know if I could name a single Fear Factory song.
I don't even know like 3 of them. I just know sometimes I want that like really cheap ass cotton candy and fake industrial sound, and it's catchy, It's you can kind of get down to business. I'm gonna work hard, make some money, passive income, baby. Yeah, that's that's
what Fear Factory is all about. Passive income.
A king isn't a king without the strength of his queen. All right. Tips.
Is that a Fear Factory reference?
No, but I've been surfing Instagram for those like really like fucked up incel memes about being a successful man and not needing.
Yeah, I don't really get you. The ones you've been sending in our group text are just kind of like mediocre self-help things where I'm like, it's not funny, and it's not good.
You just don't get it. You just don't get it, dude. Just don't get it. This is the funniest shit ever.
But I will say there's a whole lot of, I think Major Payne has a lot to say about self-help ideologies as popularized in the 1990s.
Well,
It
it sure
does.
does. And let's bounce around real quick with Major Payne, and let's talk about let's talk about Michael Ironside for a second.
Yeah, that's top of my list. There's my two favorite parts of the movie: his tour de force bad dad cameo, and when Damon Wayans dances at the restaurant where they're playing Two Live Crew while they like eat chicken.
Those are
Yeah,
your top
those
two?
are good. Those are good examples of it. And I think with Michael Ironside, what I appreciate about that one is that he was like that was his. You can tell he was approaching that like he was going for best supporting actor. Like he
Yes.
into that role. And
Yeah, he's taking it much more seriously than pretty much anyone else in the movie.
Yeah, and I think that was an important scene too, looking at the overall structure in the movie, because that is when Alex Stone realized that Major Payne actually, loved him.
The turning.
I mean, I think it's a kind of fucked up part of the movie because it's like it's making the narrative that like, oh well, dad sucks, so this is my fake dad because I do things for my dad. Even if my dad sucks, I need a fake dad to do things for, which is definitely what the movie's saying, which is kind of a classic, confusing, fucked up movie idea.
Well, let's be honest and set the stage. Like this movie, even though I find it endlessly enjoyable and always have, and was a fan when it first came out. I mean, it's rotten garbage, right? I mean, like there's a lot of things about the movie that are just, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just rotten. It's like it's almost designed to misprogram your child, right? Like you couldn't feed your kid a more toxic piece of crap than Major Payne, which is what makes it so good, I think.
The confusing thing, which I didn't know until looking into it for this podcast, is it's a remake of like a Charlton Heston movie from like the 50s or 60s.
Oh,
and that makes all the stuff you're referring to make a whole lot more sense. You can imagine Charlton Heston thinking this is what America needs in 1960 whatever. But that's why it's so funny that they remade it with Damon Wayans. And I was thinking about like, because there's that little aside at the start when he like isn't in the military and he has to find a job and he goes to try out to like police tryouts. And there's a joke about, where do you go to kill people? And he just beats people up. So it's like very clearly satirically anti-police, but then you're kind of like, but do they feel that way about the military? It's kind of actually, it's like, oh, well, clearly they're making fun of the police being bad and fucked up, but somehow the military isn't, because that's the whole thing in the movie.
I don't think we can safely say that the movie is self-aware or self-critical, because it does.
I think it's true, but Damon Wayans totally is.
Right, which is
within the movie.
Yeah, it's confusing. And like all the role of the one female character in the it's very like, she's a classic example of a, stereotyped, deferential, like coquettish, sexualized figure. Like it's just.
I think most of that's true. I would not call Hillary Banks coquettish.
She is in the movie. And like maybe these are the things I noticed that maybe these two wise elders don't, but like every scene she's in, she's like using her eyes to manipulate him into like letting his guard down, right? And she does those big sexy eyes. Those are my favorite scenes, right? But that's fucked
Those
up.
are my least favorite scenes. I wrote down, why is there a romance in this movie? Who's the romance for? And she just gets dropped at the end. Right. They never resolve her story.
Well, it doesn't matter. She doesn't matter. She's just there to be his like sex object.
So when we watch this as children, those for sure weren't your favorite parts then. When you're a kid, you're like, why is this here? Get this out of here.
Oh, I mean,
I think we need to talk about, Stephen King and what he was getting at when he was when he was writing the novel It. And what he was writing about was how when you grow up, you forget what it's like to be a child. And I'm actually going somewhere with this point because I actually didn't see Major Payne until just last week. However, if I watched Major Payne when I was 10 or 11, I think that at that moment, my 10-year-old brain, that love story would have made perfect sense to me. I think it would have made perfect sense to me, and I wouldn't have thought.
But that's not, as a kid, that's not a part of a movie for kids. Kids aren't like, give me that old timey romance. Kids are like, can I have some dumb shit, please? And the movie serves them ample dumb shit, but it also shoehorns in a romance that kids don't care about. And it's so like just going through the motions that I can't imagine the parents who bring kids to Major Payne were supposed to like the romance. I just don't know who the hypothetical demographic for the shoehorned in cliche romance is in this movie.
Well, maybe something like Animaniacs, where they throw in some little adult humor in there just to keep the parents.
Which this movie does, but I don't think the romance works as that. What adult is like, yes, please have this stereotypical gender dynamic acted out for me. I enjoy it.
I don't even call it a romance. I'm kind of surprised you think that that's what it's trying to do. I think it's just there to add more stupid goofiness to the whole thing and to give it's
a plot. Has that whole fancy where they're like gonna have kids and they're gonna have the white picket fence.
Which is funny and stupid because it's an opportunity for a vignette for him in this like really kind of bizarre state. And then of course they use that to bring back in his psychotic war PTSD.
Which is another one of the best parts. Right. Possibly third favorite part.
Well, that's my second favorite part. My first for after Michael Ironside. So my third favorite part is it's subtle and you won't like it, but when they dress up I'm not going to say fat, the overweight boy, the token overweight boy who is very difficult to look at, not because of his weight, but because of his
face.
His face is fucked up, folks. Anyway, they're in the place where Major Payne sleeps, the main, school, and they're like whispering, and he says something like, "Why do I have to do this?" Blah blah blah. Or like one of the kids says, he's wearing a dress. So okay, so the large kid is wearing a dress, and the idea is they're going to take a picture of one of these boys with a dress on in bed with Major Payne to get him fired from the academy for child abuse. So they put the larger boy in the dress, and one of the kids says something about, "Hey, you look pretty." And he just goes, "Shut up, Brian." That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I will say, I don't remember why we originally were going to do this, but someone on the internet, making jokes about Me Too stuff was like, remember when the kids were going to frame Major Payne for a child molesting? That was a crazy twist in that kids movie. And I was like, no, I don't remember that. And then going back, you're like, wow, yeah. Not only it's like, number one, it's funny that they're going to frame him for that. And number two, that they want to put one of the boys in a dress to do that. Not just that he'd be sleeping with a kid is enough, but a boy in a dress. And when the kid that they put in the dress is like, "Why me? Why has it got to be me?" The older one in charge is like, "Because you got the biggest tits."
As a young boy with breasts at that age, I always find that a little traumatizing.
Yeah. Well, I think that the dress part though is kind of like in a game of chess when you have to think a couple moves in advance. But that of course then set up was the scene immediately following where they all have to wear a dress and go for a run.
Well, yeah, but what is it? That's not. But that wasn't their plan. They weren't doing the chess move where unless they were seeking that particular style of public shaming.
The Wayans and the writers of the movie.
Right. The masterminds behind the Wayans.
Thinking about that.
It made me, so as always, I rented it on Amazon. Didn't even check if it was available free. I like to make sure I'm paying for the HD version, $3.99. Got to make it good. So it suggests other movies to you, which is always a treat. And I was struck by two things. So the different movies that it suggested, several on there that I haven't seen in a long time that I frankly forgot about that I think we should discuss at some point. The other thing is, why is it that on Amazon, every movie like this, and I verified this, has at least 4 stars? It's 4.5 stars. Do you guys know why that is? It's Major Payne on Amazon is 4.5 out of 5 stars, as does McHale's Navy, Down Periscope. What else did I see? Joanna Man.
So you're asking why good movies are accurately rated on the internet? I think that's just nature serving the course.
All right, Weisenheimer.
So, Evan, I think we need to. Let me just give you a quick introduction to statistics here.
Thank you.
I think that what we're looking at now is what's known as a sampling bias.
Very good, Mike.
where I think the ratings, the people who enjoy those movies are seeking them out, and then they are rating them. So I think that's what's happening there. I think that there's a little information you can pass along to your students.
Yeah, so, okay, yes, it is definitely sampling bias, but I guess my question is, first of all, why is it there and not on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes? My second question is, why does it not occur for other bad movies on Amazon? Like, you can go and look at for the documentaries, it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it is sampling bias, but it's like an interesting question as to why that cluster of movie watchers.
Number one, why Amazon, not IMDb? People on Amazon, as you were just saying, usually had to pay money, so they have that on their mind. Versus people on IMDb can just be like, you know what sucked? I'm just gonna rate this. I didn't watch it. I didn't pay money.
Yep.
What was the other question? Oh, why other bad movies? I would say because, like, I mean, what are your let me hear first your example of the other movies you think that are bad that are accurately rated.
Well, so it's mostly documentaries. So like I look at a lot of documentaries on Amazon because I like to think about stuff and learn new things. But they often are rated. So here's the interesting thing. Like you're right. So somebody who goes on and says, I'm going to watch Major Payne and I'm going to pay $4. They already love Major Payne. Like I would give Major Payne 5 stars. In fact, I'm going to give it 5 cheeseburgers later in the show.
We don't do ratings anymore, but go ahead.
Oh, you stopped the ratings? But for documentaries, people are interested in a topic. I want to watch a documentary about Chernobyl. Here's this new one on Amazon. Oh my God, it sucks. So they're more inclined, right? So I think it's a selection issue there, just like you guys have said.
Yeah, I mean, major studio children's movies in the 90s is a much more homogenous group than documentaries.
Yes.
I feel like the threshold to make something that would fit that category is much lower and has a much lower success rate than a big enough children's movie that like people would know to look it up on Amazon.
So that
I bet if you go to like sub-tier DTV bullshit, you'll find some accurately bad and badly rated movies on Amazon.
Right. Yeah. I just.
You know what? The real take-home point is that quantitatively assigning value to art is a pointless endeavor.
No, it's interesting.
I almost feel like someone said that in this
question.
So do you say, so like Adam, do you when you wake up in the morning, do you say like restate my assumptions?
Yeah.
Quantitatively assessing art.
Yeah, you have no idea what a big impact that movie had on me. That movie gets 5 stars.
So I have to ask.
Or maybe 3.14 stars.
Can I say I want to talk about whether the question of whether Major Payne should be called a children's movie, but let's hold on.
No, yeah, that's a great question.
Before we do that, I just want to say real quick to your point about the ratings and Amazon. Using a parallel streaming service, Netflix, is what I have noticed is that some of the ratings for movies that, like, so when I previously had a roommate, we'd have separate logins, and the same movie would be rated differently for my roommate than for myself, which I think Netflix is going more for like match percentage, but than based on what you previously watched than the rating. But I do wonder if like why something like Major Payne, from when you see it, would have 4.5 stars. I mean, I don't know if Amazon Prime has some sort of algorithm which would then like rate the movies that you would otherwise be watching higher, so therefore you will then purchase them in the future.
Yeah, so that's kind of the kind of thing I was getting at more. I think there's some sort of commercial intent behind those stupid ratings on Amazon. It's still, I also think it's the different samples that are rating those movies and how people select a film on Amazon. Like Major Payne, you're going back into, I want to watch Major Payne because I like it. With documentaries, it's like I have no idea if this is good or not, but I'm interested in this topic, which we've already established. But that's good. Thank you.
Here's a related pet topic of mine I don't think we've discussed on the podcast, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on. I strongly believe that no one ever in the history of streaming video has ever found something good to watch browsing without a specific destination in mind. What do you think about that?
I think it's a valid topic.
And conversely, I think that's how a lot of people choose what they watch and end up watching lots of stupid, bad stuff for related reasons to what you're talking about.
I just want to clarify the original question you have here. What you're saying is that with streaming services, that nobody ends up watching something which they did not, on some level, already intend to watch?
No, I mean, there's two ways you're choosing what to watch. One is you're like, I'm watching Major Payne. You look it up, you watch Major Payne.
Yeah.
Two is you're like, I don't know what I want to watch. I'm just going to scroll through here and find something. And I'm saying in the latter scenario where you don't have a specific movie that you're looking up and you're just browsing, never does anyone ever find anything worth watching. Just being like, oh yeah, here we go. Sometimes you'll be reminded of something you already wanted to watch, but no one ever is like, oh, here's a thing I've never heard of that I found browsing on a streaming service. This will be good.
Well,
let me tell you a story here real quick an anecdote that will prove your point. And Evan, as you know, is the statistician, that the plural of anecdote is data. Anyway. Anyway, so last night what was happening is I was, just hanging out by myself because, as Steve Brule would say, I live by my lonesome. And I was like, I have some time to fill here. And I went to Netflix and I was just going through the carousel to see if anything grabbed my attention. And while I was doing that, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I have never watched Gremlins from start to finish.
But you knew that was good.
What do you say?
But you knew that was going to be good. That's what I was going to.
Yeah, I know exactly. I think that's your point, Adam. Is that like I scrolled? The process of scrolling, all that it really did was like made me think of a separate movie that I'd been intending to watch for a while, and I did. And I just want to take a quick tangent. I mean, Gremlins, that movie rocks.
It's true. Wait till you see Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
Mike, I just got to say, it's the plural of anecdote are data.
No, I think Mike is right. That's grammatically
I'm right. Moving on. I'm a statistician wizard. Okay,
yeah. Well, you're not a linguist.
I'm a grammarian linguist. Okay.
Yeah. You're like well, you raise a good question though about Major Payne. Is Major Payne a children's movie? And
yes,
I think no.
Why not?
I think it's a movie for people who like Damon Wayans. That probably
in and now largely children of all ages.
Yeah, no, I mean it's certainly like it's not shy about appealing to children, but I think it's not necessarily. What's it rated? We have a rating on this thing. This is a PG-13 movie, right? Number one.
I think is it?
For what? What we get at the 13?
Well, we can easily verify this by
I'm not doing it.
A resource that not a lot of people know about, which is called Wikipedia. No.
I thought you were going to bring up your MPAA guide of every motion.
Yeah, phone book. You just look up the titles.
What is it rated, Mike?
Aren't you looking it up? I heard you typing.
Fine, I'm typing. Major Payne.
Payne is spelled Payne here.
Oh, I know damn well. It's PG-13, folks.
Is it really?
Why? Look up the MPAA listing for why.
What?
It's not language. I guess maybe comic violence.
It's got adult themes. It's not for little kids. It's
But the MPA does not say adult themes in their description of Major Payne. You know what I'm talking about? Where it'll say what the rating is for in the rating?
Yeah, but I don't know how to find that. Right?
Well, I think that for kids movies though, I think we have to define the age group here, because I think it would be.
Here we go.
I think you could see this for like 11 to 15-year-old boys.
Sure. Yeah. Prime time.
13 for some crude humor and behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if I had to guess what that's about, and it's a memory I have of Major Payne back when it came out, is there's a lot of stuff in Major Payne that is like textbook. iconic shit that little boys watching the movie are gonna play act after they watch the movie. Most memorably to me, they're like, I got a trick to take your mind off that pain. And what you did, which is just like, just inviting a form of torture comedy for little boys across the nation.
I would also say, going back to Michael Ironside, that scene is pretty dark. Like, it's just like that to me, like that scene is what puts this in the next level of crudeness from something like Heavyweights. Right. So
Interesting, because I could see the distinction between like, a Disney movie, because that is a different level. But to me, most movies like this do have to have some kind of emotional core, which always involves some kind of negativity to be overcome. In this case, alcoholic bad dad, Michael Ironside. So I mean, I will admit it's been many a moon since I watched Heavyweights, but yeah, that's an interesting proposition.
Yeah. Can I just want to, before, I can't remember if I mentioned this in a previous podcast. I know that Starship Troopers comes up quite a bit here. There's not, and I may have made this observation in a previous podcast, but I'll make it now again, even if I have, is that Michael Ironside in Paul Verhoeven movies frequently loses limbs, because in Starship Troopers, I think he had one arm. And then in Total Recall, there's a scene when he's on the elevator, and like the elevator is going up, and like his arms get cut off. And
he requests that when he agrees.
Yeah, so I wanted just to make that make that point. I don't know if it was an intentional, but just a movie detail there.
I never used that. That's a great observation. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Well, heavyweights and Major Payne in terms of dark themes. Yeah, I would say his character though definitely does ratchet it up.
I want to go back, Evan. What age do you think it is for, if not
adult
young boy?
I think it's for adults who just
over 18. You think this is a for 18 plus demographic film?
Yeah, I do. Well, the way they treat the boy.
I don't think it excludes that group, but I don't think that's the primary target group.
Well, hold on a second, Evan. How old are you when you first saw this movie?
10.
And you enjoy
it?
Absolutely. Well, of course. So we every kid wants to see, that, like, I remember seeing the previews, and it was him. It was Damon Wayans like saying outrageous things in a funny tone of voice and embarrassing, ugly-looking white kids. I mean, that was an incredibly appealing thing, right? Like, that's what the movie looked like to me. And there's a cute little kid who like pees his pants, and of course that's all part of the like goofy, slippy, slappy, whatever. But it appealed to me. It was not. It's like it's something that like I could like. My parents, plus they were like, they didn't get along and they got divorced a little bit after that time. So that made it really easy for me to see whatever movie I want, right? Because you can play one against the other. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is the kind of movie my mom would have abhorred. Like, if she knew what it was about, she would not have wanted us watching it. It's the kind of thing my dad would have taken us to and been like, it's funny. They're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know though. I feel like that's kind of the idea. Like, that is like what you're describing is kind of the idea behind the movie and the appeal of it. It's a little forbidden fruit for the
it's forbidden fruit.
What's forbidden about it? The forbidden part is the one scene where Michael Ironside's drunk?
No, it's the whole premise, like what I just described. You got this like kind of psychopathic character who is cartoonish and vulgar and crude and represents like this sort of violent, negative aspects of the male, cliche. And he's hollering at these like weird, grotesque, problem-oriented, mostly white kids. That's funny. Like, and it's also kind of like
Crazy Guy Torments Kids is a tried and true children's genre.
Wait, say that again.
Crazy Guy Tormenting Kids is a tried and true children's movie trope.
Yeah, that's true. And this is just a little bit more like vulgar than the PG version of that trope.
I mean, I will agree with that, and I think that's why it was a good and successful movie.
For sure.
Because that is the bait. That is the bait in the trap.
Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, Adam and I don't actually disagree. We just have to have a conversation in such a way that it sounds like we disagree, because
I disagree that it's not primarily a children's movie.
It's the
fine. Then
well, there's a scene in the movie at the end which I think kind of ties into this discussion at large, which at the very, very end of the movie, when Major Payne gets his new class of cadets, and one of his cadets is blind, and then he forces the cadet to shave his head and then shaves the German Shepherd. It was unclear to me.
He doesn't shave the German Shepherd. He just gives it a close trim.
Very important fact.
Yeah, I was unclear like what the blind kid did that was so bad.
He called Major Payne a name. I can't remember, moron or idiot.
Yeah, he was insolent. He was insolent. He was disrespectful to his superior officer.
That's another example, right? So that, and it's not just that it's more vulgar. It's a little bit like untoward, like it's not normal or appropriate for that trope. It's not just an angry, weird, demonic guy picking on kids, right? He's doing it in a malicious kind of non-PC way.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is, ultimately, he loves them and cares about them. So it's supposed to be like, it's okay if your dad figure abuses you because he really loves you, kids. It's okay.
But just like what I notice about Mike's example. So that particular cadet, and this is the very end of the movie, let's think about it. He is blind, handicapped. He is older, and he himself is not really a heroic or positive character in any way. Like the way that character acts and has been told to behave on screen, he's supposed to be, you're not supposed to like him. You're supposed to applaud Major Payne for humiliating a handicapped kid. Yeah. And that's why I put it in the PG-13.
Well, I want to add another layer to this too, and that is, I think what's been established is that the cadets there are all coming from places of like pretty significant trauma.
That too, yeah.
So we have that. So like like Michael Ironside, and then like the small kid. I think like both of his parents died. So you can also, I think we can also assume that the blind kid is probably also coming from a pretty difficult background.
Yeah, it's called tough love.
Yeah.
There's a scene about that where Hillary Banks is like, don't you think he deserves a break because his parents are dead? And I forget what Major Payne says, but Major Payne Major Payne says, you call it nurturing, I call it neutering, is Major Payne's response to being confronted with exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that we're calling her Hillary Banks too, because that is.
I sure don't know her name in the movie or reality.
Don't need to know. She's Hillary Banks.
Oh yeah, I also want to say related, in his main troop, not the blind guy, there's the deaf guy who is established to be deaf, and then it never comes up that he's deaf the entire movie. Am I wrong about that?
It comes up again.
When?
Well, I mean, like, I guess it doesn't really come up, but like he's one of the lead parts in the parade exercise.
But his deafness never is a factor in the plot after they firmly establish that he's deaf.
So there are some things, I don't know if it's like necessarily, and maybe this like touches on our previous disagreement, but like there are some things that just some ideas that didn't get completed, right? Like it's a bad movie in the sense that there are several items like that just didn't see resolution and they didn't finish the thought.
But the thing is, it doesn't matter. It's still a great movie. We all had a great time watching it. So I don't consider it a failure.
I totally agree. Those things make it great. That's what makes it kind of like a fucked up, like what? Like we're talking about right now, like the fact that they introduced this whole thing, like, yes, sir, he is deaf. And they're like, oh, I wonder what that's going to lead to. And the answer is
yeah, and they dub in a deaf voice going like, yes, I'm deaf. You know what I'm talking about? He never actually speaks, but there's a dubbed in ADR like, I'm deaf.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in terms of like thoughts that were not really completed, let's talk about the final competition. So if I'm understanding this correctly, So they're trying to get the trophy, trying to win the final competition. And there is a kind of typical Army cadet, feats of strength, endurance test that everybody has to get through. And if you succeed in that, then you qualify to have like a marching band competition.
Well, there was a tie, so they have to have the parade competition.
I don't think it was
no.
a tie.
No,
he
you're
says
right.
like, the first and second competing for the trophy.
Right. Interestingly, there she is. Karen Parsons.
Hillary Banks.
We should give Hillary Banks some credit.
I think she's horrible. I think she's my least favorite part of the movie. I think
like
she's a bad actor. It worked in Fresh Prince. It doesn't work here.
Yeah, right. She's perfect in that show. Yeah. Anyhow, it's not in much else of substance, it looks like. Anyway.
Surprise. Also, yeah, speaking of people where this was their peak, the director, Nick Castle, friend of John Carpenter's, was the original Michael Myers, was a director in his own right. This was basically his last movie anybody cares about. He did Last Starfighter, Tap, the Gregory Hines Tap drama. The Boy Who Could Fly. And then after this, I looked it up, he did Mr. Wrong with Ellen DeGeneres, and then stuff no one cares about after that. So this was kind of his peak apex. He co-wrote. He was a big deal going into the 90s, and then this was his big success, and then Mr. Wrong, and then stuff no one cares about.
Escape from New York, co-wrote.
Yeah.
Wow. This is the point in the show, ladies and gentlemen, where we just read the internet.
I am not. Let the
memory. Yes.
Well, what else can we talk about Major Payne that we haven't discussed yet?
I have about 10 pages of notes if I do open my phone.
Let's take a look.
Those are all Major Payne notes.
Hey, that's a nice Apple phone.
Let's go this way. Let's read your notes in this order. Like first note, last note, second note, second to last note. Let's go in that order, okay?
There is the first one is what I did specifically want to talk about with you guys, which is when the Universal logo comes up and Bad to the Bone kicks in.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, when I try to imagine composing, recording, and performing the song Bad to the Bone, it's like at a level of like, I don't know how self-aware of just over-the-top camp rock and rollness that is up there with a song that I, for many years, thought was what's the Michael McKean rock and roll parody movie?
This is Spinal Tap?
Spinal Tap.
Yeah, I thought Love in an Elevator by Aerosmith was a made-up joke song in This is Spinal Tap. And Bad to the Bone is in that level of just so absurd that it's a funny song. I was really cracking up. And also specifically, there are only a few big pop songs licensed for use in the movie, and they're all in that Robert Zemeckis style, so directly, just the lyrics are stating the subtext of what you're seeing. Because Bad to the Bone is when he's killing people in Vietnam, and then they have like R-E-S-P-C-T when the truth.
My favorite. Can I pause on that for a second? So that is one of my top moments in the movie, and I laughed my ass off last night in bed when that. And it's during the big turning point when the cadets decide, we want to do this. We want to earn it. We want to win that Virginia Military Games trophy the right way. And Major Payne says, all right, well, we got some work to do. And then immediately it blasts into like what the lyrics of that song have nothing to do with that fucking yeah. Anyway, good.
It's verbalizing what would otherwise be the subtext. And then there's another one when Hillary Banks is disappointed. When Hillary Banks is like, you're going to leave right before the big thing? And he says something about like, yes, what I got to do? He's saying like, yeah, fuck you, I'm leaving. And then the song is something where it's like, you're a bad man.
Wait, I don't get why respect is the subtext for that montage.
Because the whole thing is that so far, Major Payne has primarily been punishing them for disrespecting him, and they now respect him as an authority figure, respect the prestige of the trophy, respect themselves ultimately.
I guess when I think about that song, I think about women asking for respect from their husband.
Well, yes, it's recontextualizing. It's a postmodern film.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I have to say about that is the only time in my life I've ever just organically experienced a song syncing up like that, and it was really funny because 2 out of the 3 people involved were aware of how funny it was I was at a diner with a friend, and we had ordered, and it took a really long time. And we didn't care because we were just hanging out, but it was a notably like, wow, this is really taking a long time to get our food. And then it was an old-timey diner playing old-timey, 50s music. And then literally as the waitress finally approached with our food, like we saw her coming, like, oh, is this us? The opening strings of At Last by Etta James came on, and she brought our food up, and we were just like laughing because we were like, oh, did you pick this song to bring us our food? And she just like wasn't paying attention, she's just trying to do her job, just trying to give us our food. But we were like cracking up because it was like, hey, At Last, and she was like, well, here we go. It was like literally synced up as if it were a scene in a movie that would have been embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, can I share a story from last night that's kind of on the topic? I ordered a pizza last night, and let me subtext here. There's a football game. It was USC versus Oregon, and Washington would have been playing in that game, but they couldn't play because of like positive COVID tests. So I go to pick up the pizza, and the guy who's working there is wearing a Washington t-shirt, and I say to him, hey, yeah, too bad Washington's not playing tonight, assuming that because he's wearing the shirt that he would understand that Washington was playing. And he was just completely confused and had no idea what I was talking about. Awkwardly explained to him.
What a fucking poser. Did you punch him in the face?
Yeah. Oh, no, I did. I sure did. And if you just want to amuse yourself, you can just imagine me awkwardly explaining to somebody why I made that reference to begin with. Now, Bad to the Bone, George Thorogood and the Destroyers, of course, obligatory Terminator 2 reference that I have to make now that we've brought that up. But
best use of that song.
Separate sidebar, because even if you hadn't organically made the obvious Terminator 2 reference, I wanted to bring up, not directly related to anything, another movie I watched recently directly related to Terminator 2 is Pet Sematary 2, also starring Edward Furlong. And I just wanted to say, that really brought home for me, Edward Furlong, one of the worst actors of all time, should never have been in any movies, easily could have been replaced in Terminator 2 and everything he's ever done.
Have you ever seen Brain Scan?
Of course.
I have it on VHS, and my VHS player broke, so I still need to watch it. But is it good?
It's fun. It's an appropriately bootleg movie for an Edward Furlong performance, unlike Terminator 2 and even Pet Sematary 2, which if you've never seen, it may be the Terminator 2 of the Pet Sematary franchise.
Well, in Pet Sematary, the original one, the guy who's like, oh, you don't want to go there, like he dies, right?
Yeah, there's literally unless I'm mistaken, no one from the first one is back in the second one.
Yeah. Listen, just to keep on the stream of consciousness,
No, but I interrupted you. I wanted you to talk about Bad to the Bone.
Well, my stream of consciousness took me elsewhere, but one of my favorite South Park episodes is when they have the ski competition.
Marsh the Dush.
Yeah. Anyway, no, but I want to go back to the song "Bad to the Bone" because here's what way I'm thinking. I guess this kind of I assume that song was written in the 70s. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that.
George Thorogood, 1975. I made that.
And that's so. I feel like at that point, like "Bad to the Bone" that's pretty like in your face, like, hey, I'm bad. Don't mess with me. I'm Mr. Big over here. If you look at me the wrong way, you're not going to look at me again type deal. But I feel like that particular genre, like somebody had to start it, and then it gets more subtle over time. But I feel like the first iterations of that macho music had to be.
Badass rock and roll stuff.
Yeah, that rock and roll stuff. It had. I mean, there just wasn't going to be any subtlety to it.
It was 82.
Is 82?
Mm-hmm.
82 is like the 70s, though.
Ted Nugent had already occupied that space and had his way with it, and then lesser men like George Thorogood could come in. And
does George Thorogood have any other hit songs? Is that the only song of his anyone cares about?
Yeah, he's got a few. I Drink Alone, one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. He's got a Christmas song.
Even I know that.
But no.
Yeah, he has Pudding Time is one of his songs.
What?
Really?
Yeah, Pudding Time, John the Fisherman.
He's just listing Primus songs for those not in the know.
Primus is actually a George Thorogood cover band, for those of you who don't know that.
Speaking of bands, there's and this is, again, I'm slightly proving Evan's earlier point. A thing that I was thinking about a lot in this movie now as an adult are pop culture references Damon Wayans makes, which are definitely not directed at children. The first one chronologically is when he's acting out the Apocalypse Now scene. And then another one, which I did a lot of research for this, when he says, what we have here is a failure to communicate. I knew that was a famous line, but I didn't know from what. Do either of you know from what? I had to look it up.
It's not from Full Metal Jacket, is it?
No, that's another, that I don't really know how many specific references besides that he's a drill sergeant.
Yeah, right. It's kind of, yeah.
But so I didn't know what it is either, but that was bothering me. I was like, why do I know that line? I definitely haven't seen whatever movie it is, but it's famous. It's a Paul Newman prison drama called Cool Hand Luke, which I watched and is actually really good.
Yeah, I've seen Cool Hand Luke. Yeah, all right. I wouldn't have picked that up. That's
but then what I wanted to ask related to bands is there's another line he said where I'm like, that's a famous line, right? What is that from? But when I Google it, all I get is Megadeth's first album where he says, killing is my business is good.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a Megadeth? Are Megadeth referencing something, or is Megadeth the genesis of that as an iconic phrase?
That is a good question. And I would like to know, because I couldn't think of one either. And I thought of that when
Google just gives you Megadeth. I could, in a cursory Googling, all I got was Megadeth.
I don't know what Dave Mustaine is referencing there. It could be an old war movie.
But it's for killing is my business and business is good, kind of like is that
it's an iconic Megadeth song. I mean, like, for Megadeth fans, that's
yeah, and that's what I want to know. I want to know, is Damon Wayans deliberately referencing Megadeth, or is there a different references going over our heads in favor of Megadeth?
Well, I'm saying though, I feel like that's kind of like a like killing is my business and business is good. I mean, that's kind of like a public domain template. You know what I mean? So if you're like, I don't know,
all of those originate somewhere, even if it is public domain.
No. What I mean though is, like, I feel like somebody like in the the 20th. 19th century could be like, farming is my business and business is good. I feel like that's just like a phrase that is,
oh, you mean the form?
You guys have been circulating around, and but I have to believe that Megadeth probably it was probably like a common phrase along those lines of like, going to church is my business and business is good, and Dave Mustaine's like, well, I'm going to make it bad.
But still, I want to know. I want to know the full history. I want the Ken Burns blank is my business and business is good. And I will also say my favorite subsequent riff on it is there's an Aqua Teen Hunger Force where Shake has some kind of business scheme and Meatwad interrupts to say, I'm in business, the business of giving you the business. And let me tell you, business is booming.
That's one of my favorite shows. All evidence points to Dave Mustaine and Megadeth being the origination of killing is my business and business is good. Okay. And I cannot believe that Major Payne and co. would have independently come up with that.
No, I don't think they came up with it. Either it's Megadeth or something pre-Megadeth. For sure, that's supposed to be a reference.
I think it's Damon Wayans citing Megadeth. I think somebody in the staff or in the writing process knew about that and thought it would be a good line for the movie.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that 95 would have been like peak public consciousness of Megadeth? Or close to it?
I don't know. I don't know if I could say. So Megadeth musically peaked. I mean, like in terms of record sales, they peaked in around like right around the time of Metallica's Black Album. They released Countdown to Extinction, so a few years before 91, 92. Yeah. They probably have more notoriety and I mean, undoubtedly, more people know about Megadeth now than then. But they were big for sure. I mean, Megadeth was a mainstream, more than just a mainstream metal band. They were like on the radio and all that shit. Like
they had the MTV News at baseline, of course, was Peace Sells. So they were
right. Although Killing Is My Business is not the record that those. It's weird because like if you're a Megadeth fan, you love Killing Is My Business. But if you're a Megadeth fan that came on in the 90s, you don't like Killing Is My Business for the most part because you've listened to the ultra produced Black Album version of Megadeth. It's just like Metallica. It's like a lot of Metallica fans who came on in the 90s and after, well, many of them don't get as into the thrash stuff. But Killing Is My Business is a hardcore thrash metal record. And that song is like nasty.
Yeah. And I want to say too, for the listeners, if you are interested in hearing more about Evan and we have plenty of thoughts on Metallica. So we have some songs.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out that we've now talked for like 20 minutes on my first note of like 5 pages of notes. So let me know when we should continue to my second note.
But that's exactly how you want it to be, though, right?
Yeah. This should go on forever.
Yeah. Can I ask, Adam, is one of your notes the need to discuss Bam Bam Bigelow's fupa?
No, I know what you're talking about, but that was not one of my notes. I'm just going to skip to my notes that I think would instigate a good discussion. And one note that is the kind of thing I would only notice in an academic viewing, such as for the podcast, is for a movie featuring, and in my opinion, targeting children, there are many canned beverages in this movie. None of them are soda. It's always Minute Maid juice in a can, which I've never seen in reality. Mm-hmm. My favorite part being when they are giving him the laxative. Yeah, he yells as he pokes it with his finger, which is one of my favorite jokes.
That's another one of those sort of things that's like, what? That idea wasn't vetted.
But it's one of the best parts.
It's great, yeah.
Well, maybe it's a Vermont thing where the orange juice only comes out in a very nice glass pitcher. But,
so you're saying you're very familiar with canned Minute Maid juices?
Well, I remember. Well, yeah. I mean, I remember when we had the vending machines in middle school and high school. You get like your Hawaiian punch, and I think you had some.
I associate those with the cardboard carton. A can of juice is weird to me, and that's all they're drinking this whole movie.
Yeah. Well, that must have been a new thing. There was this product sponsorship for them.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation. Or that's just what they happen to have lying around on set. The catering people got a discount on the surplus of Minute Maid fruit punch in the can. Yeah. Who knows?
But yeah, I also related to the same part. What do you think their idea of the end game was when they gave him a laxative? Like, what was that really? Because they make it seem like he's done for. They're like, that's it. We're never going to have to deal with them again. And it's like, I don't know how this works.
It's another very half-baked idea. They did articulate it or try to in a very.
Well, no, they just say like it's gonna mess them up for months.
He'll be on the can forever. We'll never see him again. I guess
in their minds, he's just gonna be in the bathroom for the foreseeable future.
And then the joke is that it just doesn't work on him, and he just farts.
He's too strong.
He's too strong. And his fart is so powerful that it actually almost kills one of the kids, and he targets it right at him as he walks by with his lunch tray. See, that's what makes it. It's just like a lower quality. I'm not laughing at the fart joke. I'm laughing at the fact that the people who constructed that scene thought, Oh, we'll have the fart like totally knock the kid unconscious.
I mean, he is the sickly one who's been talking about his health problems, so he was already predisposed to be susceptible to such a move. I'm still scrolling through my notes to find other ones that I think would be worthy of good discussion.
Sorry. Doesn't take much to make me happy, you know.
Oh.
Good fart joke. It's all I need.
Another thing I realized researching this movie, which I would never have found out if I wasn't looking it up. So, of the cadets, there are 2 black cadets. One is the deaf one. The other one is the really sassy goofball one. Who's the? Oh, and the little one. The small children aren't human. They don't have a race yet. Of the adult. So that one, I was looking up the actors because the young one was later on Family Matters, which is why he was vaguely familiar to me. And the other one, I was like, who is this guy? He is a like tertiary Wayans, not in the Damon Marlon family, but he's like their nephew or something. And to me, it was funny because like he's obviously really obnoxious and always like doing, you know, funny dances and voices. And it's like that to me seems like the Wayans brothers parodying what they're like in reality. Because in reality, they're really annoying. And then like an elder Wayans gets to discipline a satirical version of himself. Was my takeaway from that being a Wayans adjacent family member.
Gentlemen, I need to step away for a moment to use the facilities.
Bathroom break number 1.
This would be a bit of a block here in my memory, so I'm going to have to make sure to watch this and see it. So please continue amongst yourselves. I'm going to take my break. We're going to pause here for 10 seconds for station identification, and I will be right back.
Do I really have to? Am I supposed to pause the recording?
No.
What's going on? Oh.
No. As you saw me reference in our text, he didn't even edit them out when it was me and him, and no one talked during the bathroom breaks.
And there were two bathroom breaks?
There were 2, because both times he was like, well, you can just monologue. And I was like, I have to go to the bathroom too. And so you just hear Mike like making coffee or something, and then eventually I come back.
We keep it real.
Pure, unedited.
Yeah, it's just pure.
The original master.
You know, we don't make any bones about our human needs here. We're inviting.
We are not God.
Yeah, we're inviting you into our lives, and that could mean bathroom stops, you know, breakdowns, crying. Wow, that was a fast pee.
Is he back? I can't see him.
I am back. Yeah. No, that was.
Mike, tell us about the footballs on your PJ pants.
The football's on my PJ pants. Yes, I'm happy to. I got these at Kohl's department store a couple years ago because I was there and I was, I was there looking for some Packers stuff, and they actually had some Packers PJ pants there, and I'm like, wow, Packers PJ pants, I could go for some of those. Yeah. And but those were like $50. You get the Packers branding on there to get the price up. But then I saw nearby you had these Packer PJ pants. I think it's like a Williams & Sonoma or something. And they were like $10. Plus probably got some Kohl's cash with it. So I bought these.
Wait, were there really Packers PJ pants at Williams Sonoma? Is that literally where you saw them?
I think you mean Sonoma.
Yeah.
God, I was gonna say that would be a very surprising product to have at Williams.
Sonoma is a Kohl's brand.
Yeah. So I got that. I figured, I wanted like these are football themed. I got some Packers blankets behind me. So when the big game goes on, I can put on the Packers PJ pants and wrap myself in a Packers blanket. It's just as good. Actually, they are playing the Panthers tonight, Evan. So your loyalties are going to be tested
on a Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. That's they're playing tonight. So actually, you should be able to watch that.
I can't for reasons I won't disclose in the podcast.
A little while longer. Like these PJ pants, I think I've basically worn them every day for the last 9 months or so. So
they're a part of you.
Yeah, pretty much at this point.
Cool. How much moss is growing?
What do you think?
I said, how much moss is growing on them?
Yeah, exactly. So I do want to talk sports for a second, just because we do need to mention, and this is a bit snapping
Great.
time. I am happy that Giannis Antetokounmpo signed a extension with the Bucks.
A rare sports tangent on Mike's movie podcast, and Adam immediately opens up his phone and starts looking at something else.
I'm reviewing my notes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Giannis loves Major Payne. I know he is all about this movie. And yeah, he's going to be making $250 billion over the next couple of years. Is that right? So he's going to be the richest player ever. And no, it's what? It's 250 million, 256 million. We're talking big money, okay, folks? There's movies. I mean, movies are great, but like when it comes to big money, we're talking passive income. Sports.
You know, movies are a great way to get passive income, because if the movie recoups its money, then you get royalties every time it is bought or licensed.
That only happens.
That's assuming that the movies actually make money.
Yeah. Well,
the point is, we should be making movies, guys.
Well, let's, I think that I risk losing top billing because my sports tangent destroyed the conversation, and now we need to recover. So let's get back to the notes.
I have two more notes that were worth bringing up. One is, so at the end they win the trophy, and there's a shot of the trophy with their school on it, and then it pans to the left, and there's a separate, heretofore never brought up, individual achievement trophy for Alex Stone, who what did he get that for? He didn't earn that. The whole thing was about team unity, and then he gets a special individual trophy at the end.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. So he did when he got tripped. But he was I don't think it's yet another loose end that doesn't, or not a loose end, but just like an undeveloped thing that they did. He was on track to be, like, they were trying to develop his character as someone who led them to victory. They didn't really finish the job, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, as you point out, that they give him a trophy when he didn't even participate in the final exercise that won them the trophy.
And because the whole thing has been about being a team, and the funny line Damon Wayans says about unity being unit without the Y, and then he gets the individual achievement trophy. It's bullshit, man. Fuck Alex Stone. And I will say, having looked up all the child actors, he is one that I don't think went on to much of anything. So fuck you, that guy.
He was really working it though. Like, he put a lot of effort into these scenes. Whoever that guy is, he was trying to make this a breakout thing, but
didn't work.
No, I mean, it's
and my other note is that I really like William Hickey as the old guy with the bugs, rare bug guy in a movie for me. And I just really like William Hickey. I've seen him in a few other movies recently, and in the 90s, he was only playing crazy old guy. And it's funny because the other guy that was playing crazy old guy in the 90s, Burgess Meredith, I recently watched a movie from the 70s called 92 in the Shade, where Burgess Meredith plays William Hickey plays, one of them plays each other's son. They're a family, and one of them is the dad. But by the 90s, they were both just grandpa. Like, it didn't matter anymore.
This movie,
but I specifically like the scene and when he first goes in his office, and they just have so many different moving insect things going on in the frame at once. A lot of attention to detail. And again, it doesn't go anywhere. They show him with the butterfly net at the end for no reason. But I just like, bugs. Kids like bugs.
It's not unusual it's not surprising that you, our resident entomologist on the show, would find that noteworthy.
That's why I'm bringing it up. Like, name other entomologists in movie history. There's the creepy ones in Silence of the Lambs. The only positive one I'm aware of ever is in a 80s teen romance comedy called Welcome to 18, whose only notable star is Mariska Hargitay from Law & Order SVU. She falls in love with the guy who's an entomologist and is portrayed to be fun and quirky and not weird and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, if I'm understanding correctly, what an entomologist does is that they put both of their arms into a vat of mosquitoes, and then they spray one arm with off, and the other arm they just like leave unprotected. But then they like see.
That's what entomologists do in Racine, Wisconsin.
Which does have a lot of entomology going on, given the central location of the SC Johnson Wax Corporation. And
Yeah, we should get a sponsorship going. You guys have some connections. Let's get a Johnson sponsorship.
Yeah,
we could.
well,
Also, another thing, and this is not related to the movie, I've been listening to more and more podcasts just because of the way my job is. I'm by myself, don't have to listen to anyone, talk to anyone. And the thing that I find really makes me re-listen to podcasts and think about podcasts is many of my favorite podcasts have, if not an originally composed theme song, a repurposed, otherwise without context theme song. And I just figure, with musical minds such as Evan and Mike, you could bring back that blues camp magic. And I feel like my three podcasts should have a theme song.
yeah.
We should have a lot of things on this podcast.
Yeah.
But that one seems fun and easy. I'm not going to be involved. I have no musical inclination, but I just feel like maybe when Shane's out here, we can do a live over video stream delay jam for the Mike's Movie Podcast theme song.
Bringing Shane into this would be great on so many levels, although, it's tricky because we already are fighting each other for airtime a lot of the time, and Shane does.
Yeah, it would have to be long. It would have to be an extended session so everyone could air all their grievances.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm thinking, you know how in chess games how you have the timer, and then like after you move, you hit the timer, and then the other person, the timer runs out. I think that we should have a similar thing for this, where we each have like 30 minutes of allotted time, and then
one of us talks for 30 minutes and then the other. Well, you guys did that to me that one time.
Back and forth. So if I go on a 2-minute tangent, then I lose 2 minutes. I only have 20.
Like chess, right?
Yeah, okay. It's like that. It's like that. It's and
then once your 30 minutes are up, you just have to sit there and listen, or are you just completely out of the feed?
Yeah, you're just out. You're watching. You're like Joe Mantegna in Searching for Bobby Fischer. You're just watching on the board. Speaking of which,
I don't like that idea at all. As the guy that talks too much, I'm opposed to that idea.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I actually did watch the final. So I went on YouTube and I did watch the final climactic game in Searching for Bobby Fischer a little while ago. I think that's a good scene.
If you want to watch a chess movie, my favorite chess movie is the Christopher Lambert thriller Night Moves, Night with a K, like the chess piece, which is also set in the Seattle area. Seattle chess, Christopher Lambert. I know 4-Star has it. That's how not 4-Star, Scarecrow. I know Scarecrow has it. That's how I watched it originally. You should check it out. As a chess enthusiast.
Yeah, well, that's actually something too. Like you'll find out, Evan, when you listen to our when you listen to our podcast from last week, is that we did talk about chess and how.
I don't think that was. I didn't skip to the end. I don't think that was part of the actual podcast. I think that was maybe you left it in, but I think that was post recording.
Oh, you're probably right. I think there's some bonus material.
Well, I myself have a burgeoning interest in chess.
Well, the joke I made to Mike is that because there's a popular Netflix show about chess, everyone has a burgeoning interest in chess. But Mike claims that to be unrelated to his own. I'm not so sure.
My burgeoning interest in chess predates that show that I have not seen. Even though I like that actress, I'm still not going to watch that show because it looks dumb. But I do like chess. No, actually, my burgeoning interest was rekindled a few months ago. I watched a documentary, actually counter your earlier point, Adam, about just randomly trying things on a streaming service. I tried a chess documentary about.
No, but did you search for chess? Because I'm talking about when you browse with no text entered.
Okay, all right. Well, that's pretty restrictive. Yes, I did. I searched for chess documentary, and I watched a chess documentary about the young Scandinavian kid who beat, so and so, Magnus Olsen or Carlson or something.
I want to see stuff about the guys that played chess against the computers in the 90s. You know, the really big computers that make play chess in the 90s?
Yeah, like Gary Kasparov.
Yeah.
Whoever. I just think it's funny to imagine a person sitting by a computer and the computer's playing chess with it. Because the computers were really big back then. It looked funny.
Yeah.
My computer.
No, we'll have to have the we're saying
Were they Macintosh computers? That's why the computer didn't win.
well, I know. I think Gary Kasparov. I think that was an IBM. I think that was an international business machine that he was going up against.
I don't remember. Did he win or did the computer win?
Oh,
the computer won. That was
Mike, there's been some chatter amongst our viewership, listenership about your use of the word intercourse to refer to sex.
That's right.
And I informed these viewers that this isn't some fad, that you have done that actually since I've known you, which is
right.
Seventh grade.
That's true.
Any comment on that? Well, you don't like to say have sex or whatever, any of the other.
Why did this come up? Did he say it just now, or did you just randomly or think to say this?
He said it on the podcast a few times, and it came up in a text exchange the other night between you and I shared that piece of the text exchange because it was so funny with some other people. Now my secret's out that I shared some of the text. Sometimes when the three of us chat, I screenshot the chat and send.
Yeah, it should be printed. It should be bound as a book.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good. And that's also like the screenshotting is why I'm that actually kind of gets back by part of the reason why I say words like intercourse instead, because I am kind of operating under the assumption that I'm like always being watched and always being monitored. So I try to keep things, in a lot of ways, I try to keep things as anodyne as possible. So if they do get disseminated elsewhere, I'll be like, no, I was like.
People will be like, what a proper gentleman Michael is. What a very verbose, well-stated young man.
Yes, no, I think that's why there are three layers to it. I think the original reason why I would say like intercourse would be, because when I was in middle school, I was involved with an evangelical church, which they did not support premarital relations. So I think that's kind of some of where the origin of that, and then afterwards it just I kind of keep doing it because I think it's just kind of a funny way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree. I'm in favor of it. I think anyone making fun of Mike for doing that is wrong, and Mike's doing a good job and should keep up the good work.
I mean, it's hilarious that he said it, and I believe that you knew that, Mike, even in middle school, and that's why you did it. Like,
well,
you didn't just do it because of the church stuff. You knew it was fucking funny.
Well, yeah, and I think I think there's probably got a positive reaction to it. And listen, I exist to entertain other people. My value,
yeah, me too,
is entirely related to how much I'm entertaining others. And if I am not entertaining people, I don't have value.
I feel the same way about me.
I have to keep on doing that and just keeping people engaged and happy. Because if I'm not getting a positive reaction from somebody, it means I'm disappointing them and they don't like me anymore.
Oh, you should try harder.
That reminds me of one other big picture major Payne thing I wanted to talk about, which is when he briefly isn't employed by the military, he tries to get the police job, and he says various things about the civilian life and whatever, and how he had to get a job, and the idea that military was not a job, that when he wasn't in the military, that's the only time he had to get a job, because the military doesn't count as a job. Yeah. And I was trying to think about other things which are actually jobs, but generally do not feel or are treated like jobs. And what Mike was saying made me think, entertainment industry, I think we can all agree, doesn't count as a real job. And then I also wanted to pose to Evan that academia does not qualify as a real job.
I wholeheartedly agree.
And it's a funny thing to think about, which jobs aren't real jobs. And another thing I've been thinking about a lot in the pandemic is, because everyone has to be not in the office. And when the place I work at got hacked and they had no computers for a month, what I then began to decide is if you're not coding or using, or if you're not doing like, architecture or 3D modeling or something, if your job if you're just at a computer and you're just like communicating with people, that's not a real job. That's bureaucracy and that's not real work. And because that's the thing, when the hospital had no computers, all work continued. We didn't turn people away from the hospital, but a ton of people didn't have any work. And it's like, oh, wow, I think that means you don't actually do anything and you're a parasitic organism. I basically decided that bureaucracy is a parasitic organism which insinuates and perpetuates itself in all facets of human culture, and that many people are participating in it are oblivious to the fact that they're completely superfluous.
I mean, I'm ready to start a book club with you. I agree with, I mean, this is a rare instance where I agree with everything you just said. And
well, if you're going to start a book club, you got your working out for you, because the Chucky K book is really thick.
Well, why don't you go ahead and read I'll read the Chucky K. I want you to read James Q. Wilson, Bureaucracy, because that is the foundational scholarship on this very topic. And then I want
well,
you
here's the thing. That sounds like he's going to tell me what I already decided, and I'm going to have to waste my time having an academic bloviate.
It's going to equip you with more sophisticated tools to understand what you're already starting to notice, and I'll help you understand it along the way.
But I'm saying I already understand it. I don't, unless what's he going to bring to the table that I haven't already come to of my own a priori assumptions?
My job is the epitome of pseudo work. I totally agree. It's like, well, first of all, teaching is arguably not real work, depending on what kind of teaching you're doing. And then, yeah, my job is to sit in a computer and talk to people and like write some things in Word. And the only parts of my day that are actually real work are when I'm like cleaning a data set or like writing some code, but that's like an hour or two a day. So I only actually work like 10 hours a week. And it's
passive
income. Yeah. And the rest is just garbage. It's especially in the social sciences. Like if you're an academic in a lab and you're like, emptying pipettes for 50 hours a week, I mean, that's work. It sucks. It's grunt work, but that's your job. Like academia is not work. It's fake. It's pure horseshit, especially nowadays. We've got a world full of Adam Higgins who can just take to YouTube, take to the underground information channels and educate themselves. And if it weren't for the accreditation factor, I don't think we would really even need a university system.
And that's just the bureaucracy perpetuating itself. It's created an artificial reason for it to have to be there.
So this has now turned from a movie podcast to a sports podcast to a conservative talk radio show.
Is that a conservative viewpoint?
Oh, yeah.
What's conservative?
I don't think of myself as a conservative, but these are views that are endorsed by a lot of conservatives. Well, you're talking about the pointlessness and arbitrary nature of bureaucracy and also the inefficiencies and all of that. And that's a classic small government view, right? Like we don't.
Oh, I guess I wasn't thinking of it in the context of government. In the context of government, I see how that is a conservative viewpoint.
Well,
you're thinking about more culturally. Mike probably has something actually smart to say about this, but anyway.
And that's why it's Mike's podcast.
That's right.
I bring things down. No, in terms of the university system that we're talking about here, it seems to me the issue is not that going to college or going to a university to get whatever degree you want to get. I think that is still a valuable pursuit, but I just think that the whole idea around college has become so bloated, and it's become around the idea of like the experience of college and a lot of bells and whistles that go along to it versus the actual learning part.
I'll tell you what, the bells and whistles is the only value I extracted from my college experience. I briefly used my degree, and most things I do are loosely science related, but most significant to my life developments in college were completely outside my education.
Sure. Well, and there needs to be more sensitivity to differences in people, different persons, right? So like, Adam, you're a bit more, you and Mike both are a bit more, you're autodidacts. You do have you're motivated by the desire to sharpen your understanding on your own. I'm not like that. So when I went to college, I became much, much smarter over that 4-year period. Believe it or not, I was actually a lot dumber than I am now.
Oh, I know that.
Sorry for the corny jokes, but no, like during that 4-year period, and then again, especially in grad school, like my ability to think and write got much, much better. Like I know that.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with any accreditation or bells and whistles. That's just by virtue of the work that I was doing. So but not everybody's motivated that way. Some people come in and they don't give a shit about improving in college, that the grades and structures don't motivate them. It does motivate me. So I think you should have to take a quiz or a survey before you go.
Yeah, and that is how it is in many countries, right? If I'm not mistaken, there's many countries where that is how it's done to direct what your post high school education involves.
I do wish this podcast had like hundreds of thousands of listeners, because then when we were like looking at the analytics of it, we could see like what was the listenership, like when did it drop off, and like whenever this
this is where people skip ahead. People are like, it doesn't get good until they finish talking about the movie.
There would either be a sharp decline, or like this would be the point where everybody would look at it. But I'll say this. I mean, with college, so is to tie things around. I remember like in college and the years around college, I would be like, no, you got to go to a 4-year university, and I would kind of be like, trade school. Why would you go to a trade school when you can go to a college? And now knowing that you can go to a trade school, learn the craft, and like almost immediately make like $90,000 a year, it's like
it's a way better deal.
You need to go
trick the devil ever played was making us all go to a 4-year university.
Well, there are a couple things that stand in the way. That in general, I agree with you, but it's like I also know from like interacting with thousands of 20-year-olds, like we don't do a good job of teaching people how to write.
Yeah.
So trade school.
But here's the thing: most people have no reason to be good at that.
Everybody needs to be able to write an email. And
that's the bureaucracy parasite talking.
Well, no, I mean, like you've got
in your mind, put on the they live glasses.
I don't agree with that. I mean, let's say you've got to write an appeal to a health insurance company or something like that. You need to be able to effectively write and craft an argument. But that's one thing. Otherwise, I agree with you. That's one thing.
I do feel like this conversation, like I want to reference South Park when they have like the big hippie festival. And then they're in there, and the hippies are like, what we should do is we should make our own society where you have institutions where you have to put your money. And like basically the hippies are just basically describing society. And I feel like what's happening here is that we're like, we don't need college. And then like we're like brick by brick being like, yeah, but you need to know how to write. And it's also good.
I am not saying that.
People could learn how to write better in grade school. Like that doesn't need to happen in college. I'm not saying you have to go to college to do that. And some people, like, maybe Adam, don't. But like the other thing is, I do think this I don't even want to open this up, but I mean, in my very simplistic view, I think, trade school, but more importantly, any kind of computer skills and coding skills would be, you need to know how to do that stuff. And nobody does.
Why?
Because that's the way technology and society is working nowadays. And you need to be
our whole discussion about bureaucracy started with the premise of me discovering when no one could use computers at my work, who did the real work. And you're now saying everyone should be doing stuff on computers.
I never disagreed with what you said, though. See,
I know, but my premise is, if you're only working on a computer, you're not doing real work. And you're now saying, well, we should just have everybody work on computers.
What, like you said, it depends on what you're doing on the computer, right? Like if you're sitting at the computer on Zoom, no, you're not doing any work. If you're sitting on the computer writing an algorithm or developing an app, yes, you are doing work.
What it all gets back to, which is a separate thing to open, is that I agree with the Unabomber about technology, which is that it is another parasitic thing that has infiltrated and perpetuated itself in our culture, that is not a net positive, depending on what you consider progress.
I think that was the argument of the low-techs as well.
Exactly, and did I bring this up last week? I can't remember if I brought this up last week.
I don't believe you did.
I meant to. I also, okay, wait, one last thing I forgot to bring up last week, which is the thing I've thought about for decades. Predator 2, the gangs are Jamaican. Steven Seagal's Marked for Death, the gangs are Jamaican. And then there's one other movie, I think it's called, fuck. It's Bokeem, it's called like Spun Up or Confused. Anyway, there's only like 3 movies I've ever seen where the Jamaican gangs are the bad guys, and they're all within a 2-year period in the 90s. Do either of you remember Jamaican gangs being a problem? Was that ever real? Or were there just like 3 random unrelated movies that were like Jamaican gangs?
No, that's 90s racism.
Yeah. Well, do you think so? Do you just to actually to like do a parallel with like Mighty Ducks and the big villains in that movie were Iceland? And like,
but I think that's deliberately like out of left field for comedic purposes.
Yeah.
Evil Iceland.
But you know, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Guys, I feel like this podcast is already too hot for press. You know.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna delete it. All right.
Yeah, but with the Jamaican gang point, I mean, it makes me wonder. I mean, maybe if there was in 1993, there was a 60 Minutes piece about like the rise of.
Yeah, it had to have been something like that. I'm looking up the Joaquin Woodbine movie because I want to know.
And then that was that's in it. So I think we're at a point. I think
Caught Up. 1998 Caught Up. That's the 3rd Jamaican gang movie. It's really good.
Are the gangs in? Well, not yeah.
No, that's the thing. They're always in the U.S. It's always Jamaican gangs in the U.S. in Predator 2, Marked for Death, and Caught Up.
I don't know about that. What else?
I think that what we've been procrastinating on is actually giving our final rating.
That reminds me. Did you guys do the cheeseburger system for the?
Hell no, didn't happen to come up.
Interesting.
Didn't have so, but we're back here for some cheeseburger rankings.
Well, don't you think you ought to rank the movies you did last weekend too?
Well, I think that last week I don't think we need to quantify the rankings. I think just listen to the overall substance of what we said, and we can get a general evaluation.
Maybe I should listen to that podcast and give it a cheeseburger ranking.
I was assuming we were going to get a grade from the professor on our work on our independent study project we did last week.
Yeah, to all the people out there who I didn't mean to offend anyone by calling your work pseudo work. I don't mean to say that you don't somehow expend effort and create value. I'm actually feeling very bad about that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I'm a pseudo. Anyway, I haven't had a chance to grade your work yet, guys. And so it's funny, I actually do have I had a grade deadline last week, Friday, and I didn't have time to grade the final papers before I submitted the grades. 13 students in the class, in the graduate class. And so I just looked at all the papers to make sure they all wrote a paper, and I gave everybody a P, which is pass. Because at UNC's graduate school, we don't have ABC, we just have P or HP if you do really well. And so I just never graded the papers. And now I'm sort of in a moral conundrum. Like, should I give them comments and send back the papers? Do they give a shit? Should I do my job? I'm not going to get paid any extra, but I should do it anyway.
Well, I think now that you've said that, and this is recorded and going to be put on the internet, I think
it's going to be out there. I was going to say, I recently watched a thriller movie where that exact behavior from a professor is an inciting event in the Dennis Quaid, Meg Ryan movie DOA, which is a remake of a 50s noir movie from the late 80s. He's a professor of creative writing, and in the beginning of the movie, this guy wrote a novel for his project, and he really doesn't want to read it, so he just gives him an A because he's like, yeah, I'm sure it's good, whatever. And the guy kills himself, and that's the inciting event of the movie. So I recommend Evan watch that movie.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I gotta go, guys. I gotta get some grading done.
Get to it. Well, I'm gonna say I'll start off. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give Major Payne. I'm actually gonna give it two cheeseburgers.
Sacrilege.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't align with any of our discussion up to now.
I'm shocked.
Two cheeseburgers. I think it's a 2 cheeseburger movie.
I just pissed my pants, man. Why?
Mike, would it be fair to say that you did not enjoy Major Payne? Because that's what 2 cheeseburgers says to me.
2 cheeseburgers is like a C minus or a D even. No, one.
That's what I'm. Is this accurate, Mike?
Yeah, I think I would give it a soft C. It'd be the grade that I would give it.
So would you recommend Major Payne to others?
I would not.
Wow. Whoa, you should have been talking more. Me and Evan both love this movie, and you've been secretly not enjoying it with talking about it for 2 hours, and I had no idea.
Yeah, no, I thought it was fine. I mean, it was. I thought it was fine, just like kind of standard fare.
But you also said that this was your first time seeing it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe I don't have the.
Yeah, I would like to think it's not nostalgia making me laugh.
Yeah, no, I think there were some positive parts of the movie which we discussed. I mean, I enjoyed. I'm happy that I watched it, and I think ultimately it was still a fulfilling endeavor to see it. But ultimately, it did not resonate with me in the same way that something like, say, Real Men did, where afterwards I have some enthusiasm about what was.
I mean, Real Men is an art film, so that's a whole different category.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean,
so here's a follow-up question, Mike. Do you like Damon Wayans in general?
He's fine. I mean, not particularly.
Okay, because I'm a big Damon Wayans fan from In Living Color onward, so maybe that's the key issue. Because it's kind of like an Ernest movie in that your relationship with the lead basically dictates your relationship to the movie. I like any Ernest movie because I like Ernest. I pretty much like any Damon Wayans movie because I like Damon Wayans.
Well, and we didn't even talk about Marlon Wayans, who has an entire body of work that we should delve into.
I mean, yeah, that's a separate issue. I am not as big a Marlon Wayans fan. But I'm still a Marlon Wayans fan.
I do. You know what though, with Damon Wayans, I'm going to talk that back a little bit, just because I really
Last Boy Scout.
Last Boy Scout, exactly. Last Boy Scout. I do need to rewatch Celtic Pride.
Oh
yeah, exactly. He's all hits.
Yeah.
Martian X.
Yeah.
With Lisa Kudrow.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, I'm rethinking some of that. Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember his role in "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker." That was.
I own "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker" on VHS. It was actually given to me by my barber for my birthday last summer. who Adam
barber on Instagram?
Let me tell you. So Adam, some of you don't know, Adam is actually a member of the secret Instagram police, and he has many times in our friendship kept me on track by monitoring and policing my Instagram.
They turned it off. I can't do it anymore. They got rid of the feature because people like you complained about it.
Well, I didn't know they turned it off. Yeah, and ever since they turned it off, I've been going hog wild. I've been like just following all kinds of whatever. Anyway, so Adam would point out, like, if I liked a picture of some girl in a bikini or something like that, or if I was following a fitness babe or whatever, he would find it, screenshot it, send it to like 5 other people. Up, woo, woo, woo! Here's what Evan's doing, guys. And so he tried to get me a few months ago with this, she's a young goth babe, whatever. And she likes to post pictures of herself on the beach with her tattoos. And we are connected on Instagram, and Adam found that out and he screenshotted it. It happened to be my barber. So I maintained the upper hand on that one. Anyway, she gave me,
He's the barber that gave you the tape, though. That's what I want to know.
She gave me the tape. Yeah, she likes tapes. We talked about tapes, and so she found it in some bin and gave it to me.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a good gift. So anyway, I'll just, for the movies that we've reviewed, like this is in the top. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that we've done that I like better. But see, it's huge bias. I mean, I was really into this movie as a kid. It was rented many times from Blockbuster at the Johnson household. I don't think Nick and I had this tape in our collection, but it was a frequent rental. So, and I watched it last night, and I was like really looking forward to this because it's probably been 5 years since I've watched it, and I was wrapped the entire time. I ordered a pizza by my lonesome, as Mike says. I ate the pizza and I laughed hard and I enjoyed it. I even rewound certain moments and watched them again. I really savored this movie. So it's an easy 4 with max cheeseburger or whatever for me. And that's what I got. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, we have some disagreement here, some conflict between Evan and myself in terms of the ratings. Because his rating.
Yeah, this is rare.
Right. Mike and I usually agree on
Is
everything.
this the largest disparity in a numerical ranking you guys have had in this podcast?
It could be.
You've had one where it wasn't identical, but 2 to 5. That's a pretty wide spread.
I always forget if it's 5 or 4.
It's 4. It's 4. Yeah. No, it's fairly widespread here. I just don't really know the best way to articulate it other than I just wasn't feeling the buzz of the movie when I was watching it. There were a few scattered shocks here and there to keep the electricity metaphor going along, but just it didn't have that same like.
So were you bored? Did you find it boring?
There were lulls for sure. There were some lulls in the movie where
the romance is a lull for me. I thought that then. I think that now. I agree in that regard.
I even like that.
The final scene, for example, like when they're doing the big competition, like that whole scene for me, I just that did not evoke any sort of reaction from me.
I do think the fact that you were watching it for the first time is relevant. Like I think if you had seen this as a kid, I think you would have liked it and it would have carved its way into your spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's just my supposition. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine to disagree, I mean, it's definitely, Mike, I think like we're going to have to talk about the implications of this for our friendship moving forward. But, we can do that later. And I'm going to have to think about this and let it sink in. And then I'll contact you when I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, is I just to let you know, I kind of anticipated that this falling out was going to happen, and that's why, like last week's podcast was so important because
setting the stage.
Yeah, setting the stage here. So
for my departure.
Yeah.
So here I was thinking this was like a grand return, and I think Adam's frozen, or I feel like he would have said something by now, but.
Yeah.
It does. I feel like I thought this was our reunion, and I come to find out that I've not only been demoted, but this is all part of an exit strategy that they planned for me.
Yeah. I kind of want to just like hang up right now. So I was saying I wanted to hang up so Adam would come back to nothing.
Yeah.
Did Evan leave? Oh no. Yeah. I think our internet just dropped out here. Neither my phone nor the video worked.
That happens even in Vermont.
Neither your phone nor video work. Does that mean that they their jobs are entirely internet based?
Does it?
Yeah. Now the real work is me talking to myself about movies.
I mean, I hope people stop and rewind and re-listen to what Mike just said, because that was like, brilliant.
Listen, we have to at some point, all things must conclude. And I'm not going to say goodbye, but I'm going to say see you later.
I don't even have to pee yet, so I think we should keep talking. But I want to know what the plan is. Am I invited back to the next show? It's been 5 years, and I mean, or am I fired? And what's the deal?
Listen, Evan, if you will be invited back, if you can name a movie, or I'm sorry, you'll be invited back. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to decide on what we're going to be watching next. And
remember, whatever we do next, Shane will be here. So let's just keep that in mind.
Well,
yes. So you have 10 seconds starting now.
I think we should do a double feature: Down Periscope and McHale's Navy.
Okay. Down Periscope, McHale's Navy, double feature. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make an edit myself, because you know how in movies how you cut, like, you know, you have your cuts in between you just know what I'm talking about. I'm going to have it, so I'm going to have a cut. I'm going to have a movie where, you know, every time there's a cut, it's going to alternate to the other movie. So we're going to be like going back and forth with cuts between Down Periscope and McHale's Navy. It's going to be very experimental, and we're going to.
All right, let's wrap this up and talk logistics, because I have some other things to say that cannot be said.
Oh boy.
Well, thank you everybody for joining Mike's Movie Podcast with special guest Adam. And we'll see if next week we'll see if the order has changed. Until then,
Watch your back, Mike.
until then, see you later.